Hello and welcome, I'm Sunny and this is my Jenkins GitHub Pipeline project. So what this does is we have a Jenkins file that describes a job that you can create on Jenkins and execute it. This is written in a declarative syntax and it's a pipeline job, so let's create one. We can call this get new pipeline and we can here just say anything we want. These are the options allowed, so that's throttle build, any parameters you want to pass to the build. Here there's don't use concurrent builds, we can discard all builds, any triggers here. So build periodically, that's like a Linux cron task scheduler. The format is similar to that, so we can use this. If you want to, let's say, build every 5 minutes or build on an exact date and time. This is if you're monitoring a GitHub branch and let's say the developer posts something in and you want this test to execute automatically. So this is right here. This is the older version of the GitHub hook trigger, poll SCM, where it's the same thing. Now, there are two ways you can run this project. One is pipeline script, and I've mentioned it here both. So you can copy and paste the Jenkins file and then manually set it up. And the second is, well, directly take it from GitHub, and Jenkins allows that. So if you're going to do that, pipeline script from SCM, select the SCM to Git, go up here, copy this, that's removed. Credentials comes in here if you want to add username and password. This is a public file, public repo, so it should be fine. This is which branch to use of the GitHub one, and what's the file called. Mine's called Jenkinsfile directly. Now lightweight checkout is something for checking out this GitHub repo, so it doesn't have to do anything with that. We're going to save this. Now this thing downloads another one of my projects called Simple API Test Interface. You know what, let's showcase that first. So here it is. It downloads and executes this project. Now this project has options to view the list of available suites. So we have login, registration, resources, and users. These are the inputs that the project will take, and since the input is timed, so we have three options or three outcomes that can take place. User input is there, abort the job, or unable to provide input. So what we can do right now is I'm going to show you all three of them. You can click on here, now click on this one, not one but the sign next to it. See, obtain Jenkins file from here. Now it's, ooh, that just ran. Okay, here it is. See, Simple API Test Interface. Now it goes for npm install and input requested. So this is the default value all in report. I can change that to login users and hit proceed. So it will execute that. So here we go. This is login, this is users, and we have a success. Now about this one, I will show you later on, but now let's get to the fun part. Abort. Now Jenkins runs on a sandboxed Groovy environment, so all Groovy commands are not accessible. Some of them are, some of them aren't. So what happens is if I click abort right now, this is gonna crash. No, it did not. It was perfectly fine. Okay. User aborted right here. See? And it says aborting the build. So aborted. Now why I was hoping it would crash is if you go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, scroll down, here it is. See? In process script approval. Two of them. So this is the Groovy script that's executing. You have to and here it is. Signatures already approved. Get causes. This is what usually you will get the error on. It's mentioned on my GitHub. You might need to approve the script or whitelist Groovy methods. So get causes is a Groovy method. If you get an error, the script's not permitted to use method and then that. So I already have it approved, so it ran perfectly. Now let's run it one last time, but this time we are not going to provide any form of interaction. We're just going to let it go. Another way of seeing that is we can go to pipeline overview. See, it's right here in build. Now it's in test. So these are the stages of it. So you have check OS, init, build, and test. Now it stops on test because this requires user input. So I can click on this. Comes over here. See, input requested. I'm not doing anything. Click back here and console output. You can also see here it mentions our timeout set to expire in 1 minute 0 seconds. So you have a minute to provide input. Now remember I showcased you that there's a default value, all end report. So it will use that instead. Now this 1 minute is just in case for the tester to actually go in and change the input if needed. There it is, see? Right here it says all end report. So it will run all login, registration, resources, and users. So we have login, registration, resources, users, and we have report. So it will create a report, report.json, report.html. And this is where the special stage where it says was skipped comes into play. It archives. It creates a zip file right here. So you can go to this location directly and there will be a zip file there. It's finished. So now let's talk about the pipeline itself. This is a pipeline and this is in declarative syntax. The scripted syntax for Jenkins pipelines is usually something like this. That's it. Now inside you can write your Groovy code directly or declare stages and other things. But here it is clearly, how can I say, distinct. So let's talk through this, okay? So OS and user input are variables. Now OS holds numeric value 1 for Windows and 0 for Linux, and user input, this is the default all end report. Now here agent any. Now the way Jenkins works is you have one Jenkins that controls other Jenkins. So you have a controller and then you have the other guys working as agents. Now those agents are then, you can mention them here whether they are Windows agents or Linux agents. So then you won't need defOS, but you would need to change how to run the commands. So you will have bat for Windows and sh for Linux and Mac. But since I'm using agent any, it works on either or. And the reason it works for either or is because I am writing both commands and we have a selection here, OS equal to 1 or 0, and it will then decide which OS it is. Now tools here, this refers to the global tools configuration or the tools configuration. So you can go and manage Jenkins here, tools, this thing. See, my git is called git, but on a normal install it's called default, and then I have a Node.js installation. Now that's a requirement. See, Node.js Jenkins plugin, that's required. So you set that up and it's mentioned here. So here's the thing, see, check OS, it changes the value of the variable OS here, and that affects how commands are executed. That's it. Now init will download a simple API test interface, and build is running npm install. Now this npm install, Jenkins allows it via or through Node.js plugin. Now you have the test script. So here it is. See, it asks for user input. See, enter API file names, and here's the parameters. Now parameters, we saw this at the title at the top. It said API files with a text box, right? And here's the default value, all in report. Now that text box comes with string parameter definition. There are other parameter definitions. So if let's say you want a text area or a big box, you can write it as text parameter definition. Then there is choice. If you want to have them choose what's what, or if you just want a yes or no thing, you can go for Boolean. There are a few others as well. So this is the input. It feeds directly into user input, but this whole thing is inside a timeout block. That's the message we saw when we ran the job, right? So if I go here, sorry, just directly click here, pick any, and console output, right? So where is it? Here it is. See, timer set to expire 1 minute and 0 seconds. That is coming from here. So you can change the time here. Now this takes in minutes, milliseconds, hours, seconds. The unit, you can write what you want, and here's the time, 1 minute. Now timeout, if it times out, it throws in a flow interrupted exception. So when the timeout occurs, you get a flow interrupted exception. That's what's in here. See, flow interrupted exception. And here it is, we're using get cause here. So that's why it is in a try catch block. Now here in catch, what happens is we figure out whether it was done by normal timeout or the user pressed abort. That's why get causes is used. You use get causes, and then you can say toString and contains exceeded timeout. This will tell you whether it's a system timeout or if it's a user aborted. If it is a user aborted, it sets the result of the current build to aborted and then presents the error aborting the build. That's what we saw. If it's not aborted, that means this entire catch section is then skipped because hey, it's not aborted. It will jump here, decide whether it's a Windows system or a Linux system, and then run npm run test with the user input. Now if we remove this assignment at the top, what happens is user input remains null because it's in the timeout section and we didn't provide anything. It won't even take the default value. So yeah, now here's the section, archive section, that came up. That was hey, we skipped, remember? So let's show that. It's in here. Here it is. See, stage archive skipped due to earlier failure. It's not because of an earlier failure, it's because of something else. And if you go in one here, see, stage archive skipped due to when conditional. So that conditional is right here. So before agent means this condition is checked before the job is loaded into the agent, so that's why it's true over here. And this is the expression, so it checks whether the user input contains the word report. If it is true, then this stage gets executed, then you go into the steps and run all of that. Otherwise it doesn't even work. So right here I'm just presenting what the workspace is, and it creates the HTML report.zip file. That's it. Well, have a good day.